Now, don't tell Tango Delta Sierra this, but today I'm going to get in another plane. I'm really sorry, TDS. You know I love you. You know, I don't mean it. I think we should see other planes. Ever since I've been putting videos on this channel, so many people have been asking the same question, which is, where did I do my Cirrus certification? And who did I do my transition training with? This is Mike Walden.
How do you do?
This is the guy who taught me everything I know about the Cirrus SR20 Tango Delta Sierra that we've been flying to Long Reach and back. What Mike doesn't know about the Cirrus probably isn't worth knowing. Mike's been encouraging me to look at the SR22 as a potential upgrade to the SR20. And why should someone like me who's on an SR20 maybe think about upgrading?
Without a doubt, the performance is much better. You're going from a 200 horse aircraft to a 310 horse aircraft if you go turbo, but they're just a really, really nice cruising aircraft. Much better than I would say for a lot of other brands. Coming back from Uluru to Moorabbin in one day, it was not labour intensive at all. It was a really relaxed trip. To get out there, hop into an SR22, enjoy the additional power, you know, you're getting somewhere faster, it's got much better range on it, you know, that's the whole idea.
Now we're about to hop into an SR22, a turbo. It's the first time I've sat in a turbo aircraft. We're going to be looking at the Cirrus Perspective Plus.
The Perspective.
Cirrus Perspective, sorry, the Cirrus Perspective system, which is a bit of an upgrade from the Avidyne, which we've been used to flying in Tango Delta Sierra. So if you're ready, Mike, we'll hop on board.
Sounds like a very good idea. When we start it up, it'll then start looking for your current GPS position. We are out of sight of the satellites at the moment because the weather's absolutely nasty out there. So, it is. So we've got no GPS position. But just going through, you can see here that we do have terrain information, and it actually gives us a colour chart here to give us an indication of how far we are, where we are in relation to that. And it tells us this is our maximum elevation is 4229, somewhere in here, probably up in the corner here, which would indicate the hills around the Snowies. And then our minimum is 26, which is roughly where we are at the moment.
So that's based on the range
that's based on where we are at the moment, yeah. Right. You can see there, as I start heading out towards Canberra, I'm starting to hit the 6,500 feet area. See that? So now I've gone to 7,200 feet, and that's about as high as it gets. Okay? Yeah. Which should be the track between here and Canberra.
So that would be top of Kosciuszko.
Kosciuszko, yes.
Yeah.
That's Kosciuszko.
Okay.
The autopilot is a really, really useful autopilot in that it's digital and it's laid out beautifully. So it's a GFC 700, which has your heading, your nav, so you don't have to press double nav to get GPS steering. It's just simply nav. You have the autopilot on, of course, never forget that, and you have the magic blue level button, which is wonderful for saving lives.
Yeah,
it is a magical button. I've had the aircraft basically on its side, press the level button and it'll bring it out. We have approach mode, so which we can use for ILSs or anything that has a glide path like an LNAV plus V. We have a thumb wheel so we can put things up and down. I can actually turn the flight director back on, and using the wheel I can actually move that up and down. The way that the flight directors work is they're a loving couple. That is to say that they love spooning. So you'll see the yellow chevron will always spoon to the magenta chevron.
Oh, it's cute.
Very loving. So that's our flight director. Okay. Now we have our indicated airspeed climb. Now what that does is that sets an airspeed for the aircraft to climb at. So basically in a normally aspirated aircraft, you'll find that your rate of climb will start diminishing as you get closer to your ceiling, let's say 10,000 feet. But with this one, it'll actually hold that particular power and power and speed right through to 25,000 feet. We have vertical speed for descent, or alternatively we have VNAV for descent. Okay? Either of these two will work. The VNAV is an automated thing, the vertical speed is a manual thing. Okay, that is to say, You would use that if you wanted to descend straight away. If you're using VNAV, it will wait, you will actually level until you get to the top of descent, then it'll actually start its descent. Then of course we have the altitude hold button, which is located there. Yeah. So let's say I put in 2,500. Putting in 2,500, I don't have to touch that out button. All I have to do is simply just set a climb speed, and it will stop at 2,500 feet. We can change our comms here, but I tend not to do that because we don't want to break these knobs. I tend to use the GCU control. So that's our controller unit. Press a comm there, and that will activate the comm, and then I can put in whatever frequency I want to put in there and flip it over.
And then it's just a standard comm unit down here.
Standard comm unit here. So it works
the same as Tango Delta Sierra then?
Yep. Primary flight display, you have your synthetic vision, which has everything on. It won't get anything because we're not outside. Who wants to be outside at the moment? Defaults, wind indicator, again you have option 1 and option 2. Bearing indicators, so you can have whatever bearing you want in there. HSI format, so you can go to an arc, or you can go to 360. Also in there, we have our altitude unit. So we've got 1, 0 and 5, so we've got hectopascals. If we want, we can press meters, and it'll give us our meters up there. To keep in mind, we have standard baro, which we have for going above our transition altitude. So above 10,000 feet, we would kick in the standard baro, and we can do that, and it'll come up with standard baro. We can also do that through here. You press that, it'll go standard baro as well. Transponder, I find that the transponder is much easier to do from over here. If you go transponder and we'll go 3000, it's actually showing up on the transponder. There you go. Now if you go transponder VFR, it'll flick into 1200. Then if you go transponder VFR again, it'll jump back to one of those. Next thing we have is the timer reference page, and this is really useful because you can actually start a timer. So this is your stopwatch basically. So start, and that'll give you a count up, and using this button here, press stop again, there you go, and then press reset. Now the other thing that it has in there also, just selecting the flight management system knobs on the PFD, is I can go down and I can turn these speeds on or off. So all these speeds are on, but I can turn those off so they don't appear on the speed tape. Now the important thing, if I'm doing an approach, I would put in the minimums. The other thing that's really useful is just having a minimums for VFR. Quite often, if we're only doing VFR, I'll turn around and say, I want you to do a 300 point of no return on circuits, for example. So at Moorabbin I'd say 300 above ground, so we're going to make it 350. So I just put in 350 there. And what that would do is actually give us an announcement at 350 to say minimum. So that would be my check to go. Are we clear to land? Yes we are. If we're not, we're doing a missed approach.
That's really useful, And that will announce minimums.
It'll just say minimums, If people are doing night flights, these are your night illumination potentiometers. So turning those up will introduce lights. So if you find these screens are dull, the first thing you must do is just to make sure these are all turned off. Okay. Now if for some reason this screen failed, what we can do is we can press the red reversionary button. And what that will do, so let's say imagine that's now completely off. What it does is it brings your attitude, your HSI, all the key ingredients for a successful flight across to here with your inset. All your engine parameters are here, but if you want to find out what else is going on, you go engine and then you go system, and it'll tell you all your information here as well. And the difference between the Avidyne and the Perspective is they introduced more redundancy by simply putting in the extra bus. So you have main bus 1, main bus 2 and essential as opposed to the Avidyne. How can we see that? Easiest way to see that is we've actually got M1, M2 on the central. So just having a look at the oxygen system, it's just simple a case of turning it on. There it is lit up. That will start winding down. It's telling us it's got 1280. And then to turn it off, we'll just simply just turn it off.
So the ports are up here.
So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ports there. I love birds chirping in a hangar because it just reminds me that I shouldn't be flying today.
It's always that they know something that you don't know, isn't it?
Absolutely. So if I find that I got bad weather, I can go flight plan, and I can go menu, and I can go parallel track. So let's say there's a dirty great big thunderstorm in front of me. So I can change that to, let's say, 15 miles. And I want to go 15 miles left of track. So I go left 15 miles, activate parallel track, and now everything in here has a P. Now when I come out of the flight plan, you will actually see there's my track offset by 15 miles. Then I could come in here and just zigzag around.
That's great. So you've got your own kind of road, your own pathway in the sky that you can fly through, which would have been really useful when I was coming back to Mangalore, and I had to do a left and a right diversion, and they gave me, I think, 10 miles either side.
I used this coming back from Orange, where we went 55 miles right of track.
55 miles? Big storm.
That's from here to Ballarat. That was a very big time.
Okay, well that was really useful actually, but now it leaves me with a huge question, which is, do I upgrade? Tell me what you think. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts on whether I should upgrade to the SR22 or whether I can stick with the SR20. I think obviously we need to be looking at things like, well, what am I using the SR22 for? But the thought of being able to go higher and further and faster is appealing because, as you know, I love to travel with flying. The new SR20, the G6 version of the SR20, is coming to Australia as well. I think there's only one in the country right now, but there are more coming. That's got a 215 horsepower Lycoming engine, I believe. It will have the same Perspective Plus system, not the Perspective we were looking at, but the new one, the Cirrus Perspective Plus system. Tell me what you think about the upgrade. Your thoughts on the Cirrus SR20 versus the SR22, Avidyne versus the Cirrus Perspective. What would you do in this situation?